Hello there. Welcome to Just the Discs. We talk about Blu-rays here and 4Ks and boutique labels. And we have definitely talked about this label before, but I'm doing a little mini spotlight on the wonderful work of DEAF CROCODILE, a label that started as a Vinegar Syndrome partner label and has since branched out into a really neat partnership with Diabolic DVD, which is where you can get all their stuff. Obviously, I'm a big Diabolic fan, but I love this collaboration. I think it's really neat. They are an incredibly diverse company in terms of the types of films they release and in terms of the countries from which they release them. They have a ton of stuff outside the United States. That's chiefly what they do. The one or two that I can think of that are American-based are things like Solomon King, which is a really interesting sort of blaxploitation type movie, but one that had sort of been lost for a long time. But a lot of what they do is things that I've never heard of. Things that, have been off my radar, mostly probably because of their country of origin and the releases these films have gotten outside the country of origin where they originate. But one of the things that has drawn me into them as a company is their affinity for releasing animated films. But they are often not from the United States. Things like Delta Space Mission, which I want to say is Romanian. I may be misremembering. Romanian. Really interesting movie that caught my attention. One of the first ones that got me was Delta Space Mission. Really interesting animated sci-fi movie that really made an impression on me. That and Son of the Stars, which is, I think, by the same producers as Delta Space Mission, but don't quote me on that, actually. It is also a Romanian sci-fi animated movie. Both are just fascinating, movies. And Son of the Stars, for instance, is sort of a mid-'80s mashup of The Empire Strikes Back, Alien, and Edgar Rice Burroughs' Tarzan. Just as an example. But these movies obviously look really great on Blu-ray. And so those are the ones I've been drawn to the most. They have tons of interesting stuff here, though, that's all part of their catalog. And now they have sort of a new relationship with animator Bill Plimpton. So they put out his film The Toon, and I want to say I think they have some more coming from him. There's a movie called Cat City, which is a cool animated movie. Benny's Bathtub, Bubble Bath. These are all animated. There's a ton of that here, and there's a lot more that I recommend going over to DEAF CROCODILE's website and checking out. But the ones that I'm going to talk about today are some more recent releases. And one of them is like one of my favorite releases. It would have been on my list for 2024, and that's FELIDAE. And this is really something special. This is a 4K. Oh, dear. It's a 4K of this animated German film about cats. And it's not Disney, we'll say that. It is its own thing. It's very much its own entity in that it is very adult. It is a cat noir in a lot of ways. It's from 1994, and it's about this cat that moves into a new neighborhood and comes across another cat voiced by the great Mario Adorf, who explains to him sort of the deal and what's been going on, and that there have been some grisly cat murders in their neighborhood. And so this new cat, Francis, decides he wants to investigate it. So it becomes one of those great things that I love in movies, which is the sort of unlikely detective. Like, I'm not going to say it's like The Long Goodbye exactly, but like those detectives where it's a little bit unexpected for them to be the ones investigating. are some of my favorites. I really love that as a thing. And this is a gorgeous looking 4K. The animation looks really wonderful. The description on the site, one of the most sought after titles among world animation fans and never before officially released in the US, FELIDAE marries the dark adult themes and nightmarish imagery of plague dogs and Watership Down with the family-friendly animation style of Don Bluth circa Secret of Nim. Be forewarned, though, this is not a kids' movie. FELIDAE features R-rated language and cat-themed slang. Humans are discussed merely as can openers, which I think is a great touch. Bloody dissections and even simulated cat sex are part of this. So it's very much not a kids' movie. But just fascinating, and almost enters into sort of a conspiratorial Chinatown type area when the investigation proceeds a little further. And yeah, I just was really knocked out by this. And I'd sort of heard of it vaguely, but for whatever reason, I didn't get a chance to check this out before I made my favorite 4Ks of 2024 list, and this would have been on it for sure. So it's a new 4K restoration of the original 35 camera negative by Craig Rogers, who Craig and Dennis Bartok are two of the guys behind this label, and they're doing wonderful work. And let's see, new Dolby Vision HDR color grade by Tyler Fagerstorm. He's another one of the guys behind this label. New video interview with Michael Schock, moderated by Dennis Bartok of Deaf Crocodile, the director of the film, I believe. And new video interview with key animation team, including Doug Bennett, Paul Bolger, Iman Butler, Bernie Dank, and Desmond Downs. New video interview with layout designer Armin Melkonian. And new commentary by journalist and physical media expert Ryan Verrill, The Disconnected, and film professor Dr. Will Dodson, which I wanted to dive into before this video, but I wasn't able to. But I'm obviously a big fan of both of those gentlemen. Ryan's a good friend. And for those that aren't aware, now's a good time to mention that Deaf Crocodile has their own podcast, and they have since, I want to say, like August of last year. And it seems to be a monthly-ish. Sometimes there's bi-monthly, sometimes a couple episodes. With Ryan Verrill as one of the hosts of the show, and talk about a busy guy, you know, between running his Disconnected YouTube channel and working at making special features with his someone's favorite imprint and doing podcasts. And so he's doing this as well. But they talk about the releases there. They do audio commentary for these releases, which is cool. Some of the episodes are just audio commentaries, which is great. But FELIDAE is discussed in episode 6, if you're interested. And the next film I'm going to talk about is discussed briefly in episode 8. But I wanted to mention that in case you're not already subscribed to the Deaf Crocodile podcast. You definitely should be. But so anyway, this is just a big winner for me. I love the darkness of it. I love the noir cat thing going on. Like, it's just so my bag. This is the limited edition, comes in a really beautiful slip box, very sturdy, very nice, and comes with this beautiful book. This is not a booklet, folks. This is an actual book. And it is really great. This is an 80-page illustrated book featuring new essay by film historian Jennifer Lind Barker, a new essay by film critic Walter Chow, and rare production artwork as well, which is really cool. I like that stuff. So just a wonderful release. Definitely one of the best of 2024. A high recommend from me if you're into dark animation. Along the lines of, you know, Watership Down and Plague Dogs, but I think a little less bleak, although this is bleak. That said, okay, so moving on from that, the newest release that I've gotten from them is something called The Cathedral of New Emotions, and this is also animated. It is fascinating movie from 2006, I want to say, and it is only about an hour long, but the disc definitely makes up for it. I'll just read the description here. Directed by Helmut Herbst. On the shortlist with Eiki Yamamoto's Belladonna of Sadness and René Laloux's Fantastic Planet as one of the most surreal, psychedelic, and truly cosmic animated features ever made. German director Helmut Herbst, utterly insane, The Cathedral of New Emotions follows a commune of Berlin stoners and intellectuals who get set adrift in space in 1972 in a packing container clutched in a giant flying hand. That is exactly what is happening. So picture that. Various space flotsam smashes into the windshield, enormous insects, mighty mouths, a bird from Flash Gordon, while hypnotic krautrock drones in the background moaning, "Where am I?" and a naked man bounces up and down off a massive red pepper. So begins our descent down the psychotic rabbit hole of Cathedral, a true hallucinogenic space freakout, if there ever was one. Imagine Ralph Bakshi animating an R-rated version of John Carpenter's Dark Star, or the cartoon equivalent of Khan's Ij Bamyasi, or Pink Floyd's Astronomy Domain. I would also say, like, my take is sort of like Liquid Television meets Dark Star, if you remember Liquid Television from MTV and how trippy that show could be and just episodic and weird. It does. Dark Star is hard not to draw a comparison to because they're drifting through space and it's weird and they're hippies, or, you know, hippie adjacent. But yeah, I definitely was thinking Liquid Television when I was watching it too. In other words, set the controls for the Heart of the Sun, narrated by the ship's Dr. Quistard in the same synthesized voice everyone uses. They all sound like computer voices, basically, which is fascinating. The crew includes female commander Bakunskaja with long gray hair and pink hippie frock, lizard-tongued head of security Dirksen, and James and Jones, a pair of red-headed and often bare-breasted twins. The crew spend their days staring into the pulsating light of the fusion reactor, wondering about the outcome of the Vietnam War or bemoaning their sexual inertia. Do you know what an erotically stale situation is? Eternal lust and unspeakable horror, all empty promises. Their descent into moral and political lethargy is interrupted by the arrival of a very attractive young man, Mulligan, who's discovered in their monthly supply shipment from the discount store. Eventually, this screwy kind of crew of seriously baked stoners find themselves searching for the enigmatic Matthew Madsen, a Yeti-like wild man who may be the mysterious astronaut who first convinced them to embark on their deranged odyssey. Visually, the film is like no other, filled with holographic blue phallus plants and characters morphing into gray fleshy blobs every time they pass by a black hole, constantly disrobing and attempting to seduce each other. And despite the random nudity, the crew members weirdly androgynous if genders are becoming meaningless. The dialogue is equally bizarre, littered with cryptic sound bites. Did you know that that neutrons can smile? I think you are also just fiction. And the film's mantra, my eyes are cast down in awe, which is said many times. The movie's genesis is equally strange, based on a 1974 film by Herbst called Die Fantastische Welt des Matthew Madsen. Cathedral was finished after a decades-long gestation in 2006. Herbst passed away in 2021. One of the rarest and most obscure titles in the world animation and never before officially released on physical media. Cathedral has been newly restored from the original camera negative and sound elements by Deaf Crocodile. In German with English subtitles. Fascinating stuff. I was totally into this for what it is. It's just trippy weirdness, you know, just almost non sequitur. Like, they explained the plot in a much more coherent way than I was able to absorb it, but I was nonetheless engaged by the story and the animation. It's just, and at an hour, it's like a perfect length for this, so I was totally into it. Special features include Container Interstellar, 2001, a 7-minute interview with director Helmut Herbst. Director Helmut Herbst animated, it's not an interview, sci-fi short with characters that would be more fully explored in Cathedral of New Emotions, newly scanned for this release. Work interview Filmkunst Helmut Herbst, From 2013, a 25-minute fascinating short documentary featuring interviews with Herbst and clips from his acclaimed experimental films made for nonprofit German Arts TV and newly translated for this release, courtesy of Tide TV. New film commentary by film historian Rolf Giesen. New video essay by experimental filmmaker and film scholar Stephen Broomer. Blu-ray authorizing by David Mackenzie of Fidelity in Motion. New art by Beth Morris. This deluxe edition, again, very nice hard case, and also includes a book, which I'm not going to be able to... There we go. This is a 60-page book. New essay by film programmer Alex McDonald, and a new film critic essay by Walter Chow as well. I love Walter Chow. I'm a big fan of his writing. He has a great Walter Hill book, if you haven't checked that out. But a very nice book that's included in this limited edition. They do really nice limited editions. These are beautiful. But yeah, definitely this is a new one for 2025, I think. And already a very promising start for Deaf Crocodile. I was a big fan of Cathedral of New Emotions. Then we have another 4K. I think they've only done FELIDAE in this, and this is Trapped Ashes, which is a film... It's a horror film anthology, and it's got some very high-profile folks involved with it. It is a 4K UHD Blu-ray combo. It's from 2006 also. In the twisted tradition of the classic anthology horror films such as Tales from the Crypt and Creepshow, Trapped Ashes features 4 stories of the surreal, macabre, and terrifying, helmed by 5 of Hollywood's most unique directors. Joe Dante, who I think does the wraparounds. There's a great story where a bunch of people are... Well, we'll get to it. Joe Dante, Ken Russell, Monty Hellman, Sean Cunningham, Friday the 13th, of course, and John Gaeta, Oscar winner for the visual effects of the Matrix trilogy. 7 strangers, including legendary character actors John Saxon and Henry Gibson, are trapped inside an infamous Roger Corman/AIP-style House of Horrors during a Hollywood movie studio tour and forced to confess their most disturbing personal memories to get out alive. And Ken Russell's The Girl with the Golden Breasts, a struggling actress, Rachel Veltri, decides to get implants made from reprocessed human cadavers with monstrous results for her and her boyfriend. In Sean Cunningham's Jibaku, an unhappily married woman, Laura Harris, and her architect husband, Scott Lowell, have a nightmarish encounter with a dead monk on a visit to Japan. In Monty Hellman's Stanley's Girlfriend, 2 ambitious young filmmakers become unlikely friends in 1950s Hollywood. Leo, writer of sadistic little B pictures like The Strangler, and soon-to-be famous director named Stanley Kubrick, when they both fall in love with the same eerie, irresistible woman, Amelia Cook, it unleashes a decades-long mystery involving desire and celluloid. And in John Gaeta's My Twin in the Worm, a young goth woman reveals the horrific Cronenberg-like tale of the inhuman twin that grew alongside her in her mother's womb. With marvelous visual effects by multi-Academy Award winner Robert Skotak, who did Terminator 2 and Aliens. A superb haunting soundtrack is by acclaimed Japanese composer Kenji Kawai, who did The Ring and Ghost in the Shell. Trapped Ashes is a dark and surreal love letter to classic genre filmmakers like Mario Bava, to the phantoms, literal and figurative, of the industry, and to the art of telling scary stories. Newly restored in 4K for its first ever US 4K UHD and Blu-ray release. So this has never been on Blu-ray before. This has only been on DVD. New 4K restoration of the 35 OCN IP by Craig Rogers of Deaf Crocodile. New HDR Dolby Vision color grading by Tyler Feiderstorm. Director's cut of Monty Hellman's Stanley's Girlfriend episode in SD. Original full-length cut of Ken Russell's Girl with the Golden Breast episode in SD. And original 5-part making of video with cast and crew interviews in SD as well. But we have a new commentary track by comics artists Swamp Thing film historian and author Stephen R. Bissett. Hollywood Parasite, Hysteria and Trapped Ashes, a new visual essay by journalist and physical media expert Ryan Verrill, of course, and Dr. Will Dodson. Always great to have them on these discs. 3 new video interviews with director John Gaeta, cast members J.C. Bartok, Scott Lowell, and Lisa Tribble, producers Yuki Yoshikawa and Yoshifumi Hosoya, and cinematographer Zoran Popovic, moderated by producer-writer Dennis Bartok from Deaf Crocodile. Cast members Tomo Paninket and Ty Runyon, and production designer Rob Wilson-King, producer Mike Frislev of No Man Pictures. And this has, again, a nice limited edition book. This is an 80-page book with new essays by Walter Chow and Dennis Bartok himself. And it also includes a reprint of the original Fangoria article by Sean Decker on the film from September 2007, as well as a Q&A with producers Yuko Yoshikawa and Yoshifumi Hosoya and Dennis Bartok from 2006. So a really nice packed book full of essays and other good stuff. So that's a 4K, and this looks good. I was able to check this out. It definitely looks like a newer movie in a lot of ways, but it's interesting to have all of these filmmakers represented. Does it fully work for me as a film? Maybe not fully, but I do think it's interesting, and I think it's an interesting throwback. And some of the stories are obviously better than others, but that's par for the course with anthology movies like this. Next up, we have one more animated movie. This is Jamala 2010, A Punk Cat in Space. And this is a Blu-ray. And a really interesting animated film. And this is also 2006, I want to say. 2002, my bad. Director TOL, arguably the only anime ever made inspired by both Hello Kitty and Thomas Pynchon's The Crying Lot 49. Tamala 2010 is a futuristic techno fever dream that flows back and forth in time, following the adorable wide-eyed kitty Tamala on her home world of Megura City, Cat Earth, a Blade Runner-like megacity controlled by the Catty & Co. Corporation. Escaping into space, she's waylaid by the god of death and crash lands near Hate City on the planet Q, where she meets a new boyfriend, goes bowling and shopping in a thrift store, and realizes she may be the latest reincarnation of an ancient Greek cat cult with ties to the omnipresent Catty & Co. A heady conceptual work of psychedelic sci-fi influenced by the style of classic manga and anime such as Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy and Takeshi Murakami's postmodern art movement Superflat. Tamala 2010 is also a savage take on modern consumer culture. In Meguro City, a giant Colonel Sanders stalks the street with an axe buried in his head, and Tamala's eerie cat's eyes are everywhere, advertising chocolate, toothpaste, and drugs for forgetfulness. Written and directed and composed by the two-person team of TOL, their incredibly addictive electronica space lounge score is worth the price of admission alone. Tamala 2010 is equal parts Philip K. Dick, Metropolis, and Clockwork Orange. A few sly nods to The Shining thrown in for good measure, in Japanese with English subtitles. Just to give you a sense of some of the animation in this, you can see a bit of it on the back here. But that's actually not all, because that stuff's in black and white, but there is some color stuff that comes out. It's really unique. I can't deny it's an incredibly unique film, and fits well into the animated films they've released prior to it. And I love that they're definitely not all the same kind of thing, but they're all interesting and weird in some way or another, and I'm really into that, honestly. So this one has, let's see here, 2 original Tamala short films, both Japanese with English subtitles. Tamala on Parade from 2007, that's 24 minutes, directed by the TOL team, as well as Tamala's Wild Party, 2007, 16 minutes. Both are in SD. New video interview with Tamala 2010 co-creator, co-director, K of TOL, moderated by Dennis Bartok of Deaf Crocodile, in Japanese with simultaneous English translation by Christian Storms. Doesn't She Ever Die? The Punkification of Late Capitalism, new visual essay by journalist and physical media expert Ryan Verrill of The Disconnected and film professor Dr. Will Dodson. Very cool. And a new commentary by film historian Sam Deegan, one of the greatest to ever do it. So that is wonderful. Then, of course, we have the book that's part of the limited edition. This is a 60-page illustrated book with essays by Walter Chow and Jennifer Lind Barker. I love that Walter Chow is a regular collaborator with them, as he is one of my favorite film writers. He's also great on commentaries, and I just love his stuff. So that is Tamala on Parade, Tamala 2010, A Punk Cat in Space. Another animated. And then the last two I haven't gotten a chance to dig into really, but I'm equally interested in them. First up, we have The Outcasts from 1982, which should be for fans of the Severin Films folk horror box sets. This feels like something that could fit right into one of those. In the dark, she felt the key turning in the latch, and the voice spoke to her, "Open the door," whispers Maura, Mary Ryan, the odd, intense daughter of an impoverished rural family in early 1800s Ireland who is accused of witchcraft after she's seen consorting in the woods with a conjurer and a fiddle player named Scarf Michael. This one, her neighbors and even her own family become increasingly consumed by fear and superstition as Maura starts to experience surreal, poetic flashbacks of her latent powers. A major rediscovery for fans of folklore, fantasy, and folk horror, The Outcast was the first feature directed by Robert Wynne Simmons, famed for his work as a writer on the seminal British folk horror film Blood on Satan's Claw. So that should give you an idea of the territory that we're in. The Outcast plays like an ancient ballad somehow captured on film, filled with the sorcery of earth and woods, musicians hooded in pagan straw masks and skirts, prejudice and myth and religion, and the peat and the mud and the bone-chilling cold. There's a queer sweetness in the air. It's an unnatural state of affairs, as one character murmurs. Ryan delivers an unforgettable performance as Maura, with her piercing, raven-like beauty, matched by Lally as the nearly mythic Scarf Michael. With a superb lyrical score by the acclaimed traditional folk composer Stephen Cooney, recently restored by the Irish Film Institute Film Archive, The Outcast emerges as one of the great gems of Irish cinema, released for the first time ever in the U.S. by Deaf Crocodile. This features new video interview by director Robert Wynne Simmons, new video interview with composer Stephen Cooney, new visual essay by producer and Professor Rod Stoneman, former head of Board Scannon Nan Iarnan and the Irish Irish Film Board. Ultra rare 8mm shorts by Robert Wynne Simmons. La Ridata di Avallo, 1962, 15 minutes. Eerie ghost story shot in the derelict mansion once owned by Percy and Mary Shelley. Very nice. The Greatest All-Star Adversial of All Time, 1963, 2 minutes. This is a Mad Cat comic short, features Charlton Heston, incredibly, Michael Redgrave, and a young Peter O'Toole. Another one called Bomb Disposal from 63, 5 minutes, featuring cameo by Sammy Davis Jr. The Scrolls, 1964, 25 minutes. Wynne Simmons' most ambitious early film, has surreal overtones of the 60s series such as The Prisoner and The Avengers. Very excited to check that one out. Plus The Judgment of Albion, Prophecies of William Blake, 1968, 26 minutes. The Wynne Simmons tribute to the visionary poet and artist William Blake, courtesy of Robert Wynne Simmons and the British Film Institute. Another one that has a 60-page booklet with new essays by Irish filmmaker Paul Duane, All You Need Is Death, and a new essay by film critic Walter Chow, as well as a slipcase with newly commissioned art by Andy Ferrari, which is really nice. So that's the beautiful limited edition. And lastly, we have The Golden Fern. And this one is from 1963. It is in Czech with English subtitles. 115 minutes. Czech director Jiří Weiss's breathtaking black and white fairy tale is one of the most unjustly neglected treasures of this 1960s fantasy filmmaking. A hauntingly lyrical work with overtones of Wojciech Haas's The Saragossa manuscript, Franciszek Walicyl's Market Marketa Lazarova, and Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast. This is a great company to be in. I'm very curious now. A handsome young shepherd stumbles across a magical golden fern in the forest. A stunning enigmatic forest fairy named Lysanka is sent to retrieve it, but instead falls hopelessly in love with him. When he's forced to join the army and heads off to war, she sows a seed from the fern into his shirt to protect him. While he's away, though, he falls for the icily beautiful daughter of the commanding general, who demands he perform a series of Herculean tasks to prove his devotion to her. Director Jerry Weiss, who died in 2004, was internationally acclaimed for such dramas such as Wolf Trap and Romeo, Juliet, and Darkness. He worked with cinematographer Bedřich Batka, who also photographed the legendary Marketa Lazarova, to craft one of the most visually ravishing and hypnotic black and white screen fantasies of the era. In terms of features, 3 early rare Jerry Weiss shorts: The Sun Shines on the River Luznis, 1936, 10 minutes, beautiful lyrical black and white tone poem of pre-World War II Czech countryside. Athletic young men and women canoeing down the river Luznis, passing medieval castles and sleepy half-forgotten villages, silent with music. Song of Ruthenia, 1937, 11 minutes, another gorgeous black and white film poem of the Czech countryside, and Weiss's personal favorite of his early shorts, mythical images of mountains and streams and rural farmers tilling the land, and make this a precursor to mystical visions of the forest in the Golden Fern, filmed traveling on horseback through the mountains of Ruthenia, then part of Czechoslovakia, now part of the Ukraine, shooting in the diverse community with Ruthenians, Slavs, Jews, and Roma all living in the same area. And lastly, in terms of the shorts, The Rape of Czechoslovakia, 1939, 17 minutes. Weiss's classic black and white agitprop short was made after he escaped to London ahead of the Nazis. He carried with him 3 reels of material for his unrealized film, Javet Let Svobody, 20 Years of Freedom, 20 years of the existence of the independent Czechoslovakia from its 1918 founding to 1938, when the Munich Agreement dissolved it, in English with poetic narration written by C. Day-Lewis, father of Daniel Day-Lewis. Very cool. Also includes new interview with filmmaker's son, Jerry Weiss Jr., about his father's remarkable life story and filmmaking career. New commentary by film historian Peter Hames and Czech film expert Irene Kovarova of Comeback Company. Video essay by film historian Evan Chester. New reversal artwork by Beth Morris. The deluxe edition has a 60-page illustrated booklet. Introduction by filmmaker Alexander Payne. Very cool. He must be a fan. New essay by film historian Peter Hames. New essay by film critic Walter Chow. And Memories of a Cinematographer Bedřich Batka by writer William Robertson. So all these are very interesting, and I think gives a really interesting overview of what Deaf Crocodile is doing. And if any of this stuff sounds up your alley, I think you should definitely think about picking this up. FELIDAE is a full-blown, can't recommend it enough masterpiece. And the rest are interesting depending on what you're into. But I do think this really gives you a sense of what they're about and the variety of stuff that they put out. So please keep an eye on Deaf Crocodile. Check them out at Diabolic or their website. Check out their podcast, their socials. They are wonderful and well worth your time and attention. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.